There is a bottle in your shower right now that promises to repair damage, restore shine, eliminate frizz, and nourish your scalp with a blend of ingredients you cannot pronounce. You use it every day without thinking about it. But the product in that bottle has a history soaked in colonialism, chemical warfare, and one of the most successful deceptions the consumer industry has ever pulled off. You were taught that your hair is dirty. You were taught that it needs to be washed daily. You were taught that without shampoo you're somehow less civilized. None of that was true. All of it was manufactured. This is the hidden history of shampoo. Let's start with the thing no shampoo company wants you to know. For the vast majority of human history, people did not wash their hair with soap or any kind of lathering agent. And their hair was fine. Not fine as in tolerated. Fine as in healthy, naturally conditioned and functional. Human hair produces sebum, a natural oil secreted by the scalp. Sebum is not dirt. It is a protective coating. It conditions the hair shaft, repels water, and creates a natural barrier against environmental damage. For most of human history, people managed their hair with combing, brushing, rinsing with water, and occasionally applying plant-based oils. The scalp maintained its own balance. The concept of washing hair with a cleansing agent, lathering, rinsing, repeating, is, in the grand sweep of human history, essentially brand new. The word shampoo itself is only about 250 years old, and where it comes from tells you everything about how the modern world learned to see cleanliness through someone else's eyes. The year is 1762. A Bengali entrepreneur named Sake Dean Mahomed arrives in Britain. He has travelled from the Mughal Empire, present-day India, carrying with him a tradition that has existed on the subcontinent for thousands of years. In India, the practice of head massage using oil and herbal preparations was called shampoo, from the Sanskrit word champna, meaning to press or knead. This was not washing in the Western sense. It was therapeutic. Scalp massage with oils infused with herbs, amla, brahmi, neem, to stimulate circulation, condition the hair and scalp, and treat specific ailments. It was medicine before it was cosmetic. Dean Mahomed opened a bathhouse in Brighton in 1814, the Mahomed's Shampooing Vapour Baths. He offered Indian-style head massage with herbal preparations to the British public. He became so celebrated that he was appointed shampooing surgeon to both King George IV and King William IV. The word shampoo entered the English language from his business, but here is the critical detail that gets erased in most accounts. What Dean Mahomed was offering was not what you have in your shower. It was massage. It was oil. It was an ancient therapeutic tradition. The British took the word, stripped out the Indian knowledge system behind it, and slowly, over the next century, transformed it into something unrecognizable. They turned a wellness ritual into a product, and then they sold it back to the world as a Western innovation. For most of the 19th century, hair washing in the Western world meant one thing: soap. Regular bar soap, dissolved in water, applied to the scalp. It worked after a fashion. But soap is alkaline, and hair is slightly acidic. Regular soap stripped the natural oils, left residue, made hair dull and brittle. Victorian-era hair care guide recommended washing hair no more than once a month. Once a month. Not because people were lazy, because washing hair too often was understood to damage it. Then in 1898, a German chemist named Hans Schwarzkopf, yes, that Schwarzkopf, developed the first powdered shampoo. It dissolved more cleanly than bar soap. It was less harsh. It was the first product specifically designed for hair washing rather than general cleaning, and it was sold in pharmacies as a specialty treatment, not an everyday item. You used it occasionally. You did not need it daily. The shift from occasional treatment to daily necessity did not happen because science demanded it. It happened because business required it. A product used once a month generates 1/12 the revenue of a product used every day. The question was how to make people believe they needed it every single day. Here is where the story takes its darkest turn. The First World War, 1914 to 1918, was a catastrophe in almost every dimension. It was also, quietly, a revolution in chemistry. The industrial machinery built to produce poison gases, chlorine, mustard gas, phosgene, left behind an enormous infrastructure of chemical manufacturing capability with nowhere to go once the war ended. German chemical companies in particular had spent 4 years developing and mass-producing synthetic compounds at a scale the world had never seen. When the armistice came, those factories needed new products. Those chemists needed new problems to solve. One of the solutions was synthetic detergent, petrochemical-based surfactants that could replace soap-based cleaning agents. They were cheaper to produce. They lathered more dramatically. They could be engineered to produce specific sensory experiences, more foam, stronger scent, a particular feeling on the skin, and unlike natural soap, they could be manufactured in unlimited quantities from petroleum byproducts. By the 1920s and 1930s, American and European companies began reformulating hair washing products using these synthetic surfactants. The result was liquid shampoo as we recognize it today. And it produced something that soap never quite could, an enormous satisfying lather. That lather, it turns out, does almost nothing for cleaning. The surfactants clean the hair. The foam is theatrical. It is a signal engineered to make you feel like something is happening. Shampoo companies discovered early on that consumers equated foam with effectiveness. More bubbles meant the product was working. So they added foaming agents, sodium lauryl sulfate being the most famous, not because they cleaned better, but because they made people feel confident they were clean. You've been paying for foam since the 1930s. By the 1950s, the shampoo industry had a product. What it needed was a frequency. The advertising campaigns of the post-war era are a masterclass in manufacturing insecurity. Procter & Gamble, Unilever, Alberto Culver. They did not simply tell consumers their shampoo was good. They told consumers that unwashed hair was a social liability, that greasy hair would cost you your job, your marriage, your social standing. Advertising copy from the 1950s described the scalp's natural oils as build-up, as residue, as something to be eliminated rather than maintained. The sebum that had protected human hair for hundreds of thousands of years was reframed as a problem that only shampoo could solve. By 1970, daily hair washing had become the norm in the United States and most of Western Europe. Not because hair needed it, because a generation had been told repeatedly by voices they trusted that anything less was unacceptable. The cycle was self-reinforcing. Strip the scalp's natural oils with daily washing, cause the scalp to overproduce sebum to compensate, use that overproduction as evidence that the hair is greasy and needs washing again. The product created the problem it claimed to solve. In 1970, Procter & Gamble introduced conditioner, not as a separate product category they had always intended to sell, as a solution to a problem their own shampoo had created. Daily washing with synthetic surfactants stripped the hair's natural moisture. It left hair dry, brittle, prone to breakage. Conditioner was formulated to replace, artificially and temporarily, some of what shampoo removed. It was the pharmaceutical model applied to cosmetics. create a dependency, then sell the treatment. The shampoo and conditioner ritual, the paired products, the sequenced application, generated twice the revenue of shampoo alone. By the 1980s, it was the global standard. By the 1990s, a third product had been added: leave-in conditioner, then heat protectant, then serum, then oil treatment. Each new product addressed a problem that either did not exist before mass shampooing or was made significantly worse by it. The global shampoo market today is worth over $30 billion annually. The conditioning and treatment market adds another $20 billion. $50 billion a year to manage a problem that, for most of human history, the human scalp managed on its own. Here is what dermatologists and trichologists, hair and scalp specialists, have been quietly publishing for the last 2 decades, largely without corporate funding. The scalp's sebum production is reactive. Wash frequently. The scalp produces more oil to compensate. Wash less frequently. Over several weeks of adjustment, and sebum production normalizes. The no-poo movement, the practice of washing hair with water only or with very occasional gentle cleansing, has thousands of documented adherents who report that after a transition period, their hair reaches a stable, self-regulating equilibrium that requires no product at all. This is not fringe science. It is basic dermatology. The scalp is an organ. Organs, given the chance, regulate themselves. The Indian tradition that Dean Mahomed brought to Britain in 1814, occasional oil application, scalp massage, herbal preparation, is now sold back to consumers at premium prices as Ayurvedic hair care. The same knowledge system that was stripped from its original context, replaced with a synthetic product, and used to manufacture daily dependency is now being repackaged and sold as a luxury alternative to the problem it originally had no part in creating. So, the bottle in your shower, it contains synthetic surfactants derived from petrochemicals, foaming agents added not for cleaning but for psychological effect, fragrance compounds, often dozens of undisclosed chemicals listed simply as parfum, included because consumers buy with their nose, preservatives, thickeners, colorants, and at the very end of the ingredients list, in quantities so small as to be cosmetically irrelevant, the botanical extracts on the front label, the argan oil, the keratin, the coconut milk. The word shampoo came from a Sanskrit therapeutic tradition. It was carried to Britain by an Indian entrepreneur. It was transformed by post-war chemical industry. It was made daily by post-war advertising. And it was turned into a $50 billion global market by engineering a problem in the very people it claimed to help. That is not a story about hair. That is a story about how industries are built, not on need, but on the manufacturing of need. On taking something the human body does adequately on its own, calling it inadequate, and selling the solution. I'm Aidan Thomas of Hidden History. Take a look around. History is everywhere. If you found yourself reconsidering what's in your shower after this episode, that's exactly the point. The most ordinary objects carry the most extraordinary histories. Subscribe, and we'll keep finding them. Next week, we're uncovering the hidden history of the microwave, the accidental invention that came from a radar gun, a melted chocolate bar, and a defense contractor who changed how the world eats forever.